When I was asked to do a project on the 1400 days that I've been in high school, I was surprised to realize how much I've grown over these years and how little of my actual coursework I can remember. I went from a 14-year-old who had just started his high school journey and was forced by his sister to do chorus, unaware of what he wanted to do in his life except for baseball and video games, into the smart, charming, multi-talented athlete standing before you today. Now I'm sure you're all thinking, Owen, what problems could you have possibly faced to become the person you are today? And to that, I would say, on paper, my high school experience looked pretty normal, but some of the hardest battles I fought were the ones that nobody else could see. Now, my journey had not been a smooth path, being constantly faced with what seems to be endless problems, one after another, which can oftentimes feel overwhelming. But as the famous philosopher Marcus Aurelius says, it is not a misfortune to bear this, but it is a good fortune to bear with courage, which comes my first lesson. The stories we tell ourselves determine the lives we live. And for a long time, I had a habit of convincing myself that I couldn't. I told myself that running was a punishment, not something I could ever enjoy. I told myself that no matter how hard I worked in the weight room, I would never make any real progress. I told myself that junior year was too old to learn the drums. I told myself that my worth depended on how well I performed on the baseball field. Over time, I learned that the person holding me back wasn't oftentimes anyone else. It was me. But then, something changed. Junior year, I was faced with the hardest point in my life. Failed relationships that I worked so hard to hold on to, mental health struggles that slowly started taking over, injuries and burnout from the sports I built my entire identity around, and the struggle to do any work in school no matter how much effort I put in. I was lost. I felt like I was becoming a different person depending on where I was. At school, I stayed positive and tried to keep myself together. With my friends, I did the same, joking, talking, acting like everything was normal. As a teammate, I tried to be a leader. I tried to be the supportive one, the reliable one, the one who was always okay. But it wasn't really me. The moment I was alone, all that went away. The energy, the effort, the version of me that everyone else saw was gone. What was left was exhaustion, silence, and a version of me that I didn't know how to deal with. After a while, I struggled to find who I was anymore. I wasn't switching between people, but rather I was trying to keep the one version of me from falling apart long enough to get through each day. I started disconnecting from everything around me. Every day felt more like something I was trying to survive rather than something actually worth living. Everyone around me seemed happy. They were laughing, making memories, planning for college, while all I could remember was wondering what was wrong with me and why I couldn't do the same. I felt like a burden every time I opened up and tried to talk about how I was feeling, so I eventually stopped reaching out. Instead, I listened to my own thoughts. Every day, they told me the same things. I did this to myself. I deserve this. I'm never going to be happy. After hearing those thoughts long enough, I started believing them. It felt like there was no escape. For months, I couldn't see a future version of myself that was happy. There were nights when I sat up questioning whether I wanted to keep going. I couldn't imagine a future where things got better because I couldn't imagine a future version of myself at all. After being a prisoner of my own mind for so long, I felt like I only had two options: leave the life so many people have fought for me to keep, or choose to fight. I chose to fight. I did it for myself and for the people that care about me so much. In being alone for so long, I taught myself to be able to sit with it. I taught myself strategies to help deal with my emotions and process them rather than bury them deep down and let them bottle up. Every Sunday, I'd go on a walk by myself. No music, no phone, just me and my thoughts. Sometimes those walks were the only time all week that I allowed myself to be honest about how I was feeling. I connected with God. I used the drums as a form of musical expression. I lifted and practiced baseball for hours until I felt like I couldn't anymore. Through all that, I learned another lesson. Your struggles don't define you. The choices you make in response to them do. During that time, as I spent a lot of time studying philosophy, one quote in particular stuck with me. A man can be himself only so long as he is alone, and if he does not love solitude, he will not love freedom, for it is only when he is alone that he is really free. I was the person that chose to make a change in my life. In doing so, I gained a newfound independence. I gained confidence in myself to be the person I've worked so hard to become. My senior year, I allowed myself to open up and become who I truly wanted to be. Not an athlete, not a drummer, a singer, or a student. I wanted to be Owen. Allowing myself the time to truly reflect and figure out who I wanted to be as a human being, not only to myself, but others, gave me the strength to share why I am the person I am today. 1,400 days ago, I walked into high school not knowing who I wanted to be. Today, I'm leaving with something far more important than any lesson I learned in a classroom. I know who I am. And if you gain anything from my story, I hope it's this. No matter how lost you feel, no matter how alone you think you are, and no matter how impossible it seems to keep going, please keep fighting. Because the person you become may be someone that little freshmen never imagined they could be.